I'd like to spend a couple minutes on the Declaration of Independence. Kay and I are watching a series put out by Hillsdale College. They are doing a series right now on the Constitution, and they're starting off with the Declaration of Independence. Dr. Larry Arnn is the instructor. He's got a small seminar, almost a midrash, and he's talking about a lot of interesting things, but he said one thing that I hadn't seen before. In the Declaration, God is mentioned 3 times. And he is mentioned 3 times in his role as lawgiver, judge, and executive. And in fact, the Declaration therefore serves as the framework for what is eventually our form of government. Because we have, obviously, 3 branches of government, and we have a 4th branch that we have created out of a fit of absent-mindedness that we need to get rid of. The 4th branch being the administrative state. That is nowhere in the Constitution. I'm not going to read the whole Declaration, although in the past we have done that. So I'm going to start with the beginning. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. Notice that they started off being colonies, and they, by this declaration, have ceased to be colonies and are now states. So the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. First mention of God. And he is mentioned in what role? Lawgiver. So it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. And then we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among this are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. By the way, that's a mistake. There was a strong movement for it to be life, liberty, and property. Property didn't stay, it became the pursuit of happiness. It should have stayed property. But now I'm going to skip down to the end. And if you go down to the last paragraph, we therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions. Who's the Supreme Judge of the world? God. So there's a second mention of God in the Declaration. So we therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and authority of the good people of these colonies solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states. So notice it started off with these United States, and now it's down at the bottom and it's saying, all right, legally we have been colonies, and what we're saying is by this declaration we are changing from colonies to states. God is the judge of the rectitude of our intentions. In other words, God is judging our intentions, not necessarily our actions. Stuff may happen that we aren't going to be proud of, but at the moment we are lifting up to God the intention that we have in issuing this declaration. That these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. And as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Where's the third mention of God? Divine providence. What are they depending on divine providence for? Protection. Protection is an executive function. The executive is the one that wields the sword, if you will. So what you have here in the Declaration is the tripartite God. You have the three branches of our government laid out, and in that sense the Declaration then becomes the blueprint for the Constitution. What the Constitution is enabling legislation for the Declaration. Declaration is a statement of principles. The Constitution is the set of laws that implements that declaration. And at the end of it, they say, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. What else do you have to pledge besides your life, your fortune, and your sacred honor? So one of the things that I take from this is people who say that the United States is not based on biblical principles are full of heifer dust. It's total nonsense. Now, one of the things that you will hear is, well, the courts have ruled we're not a Christian nation. And there was such a court decision. And it had to do with a treaty. And what the court ruled is the United States is not a Christian nation in the sense that Great Britain is a Christian nation. The Queen is the head of the church, and the church is a state organ. Which is to say, we do not have a state church. The president is not head of our church. So in that sense, we are not a Christian nation. We are, however, a Christian nation, small c, because everything in our government is set up on divine principles, on principles of Scripture, and the organization of our government is based on our understanding of how God has presented himself to us as a being in three parts: an executive, a legislative, and a judicial. So we have God as judge, we have God as executor and protector, we have God as lawgiver. And that's what's referred to here in the Declaration. And as I say, from there we then go on to the Constitution, which is basically implementing legislation. These are the laws we're going to put into place in order to realize the principles that we have laid out in our Declaration.